Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for your patience. We were just waiting for people to log into the webinar. Really appreciate you attending, and I'm very excited indeed to be bringing you the latest in this series of NASC webinars. Today's will be about building your scaffolding talent pipeline, and we'll be talking about strategies and innovations, as well as responding to some questions that have been submitted prior to the webinar, as well as those that might occur to you in the course of our discussion. Be joined by two amazing panelists. I'm delighted to have both in here. Anne Pavey, the Senior National Account Manager for Construction within the DWP, and Jim Scott, who is the Head of Training and Recruitment for Alltask. Both of them are experts in the field and have a lot of experience in developing and implementing the types of strategies that we're going to be exploring. In addition to that, they are very keen to look at ways in which we can evolve and collaborate across the industry, as well as looking at some of the opportunities that can be generated through working with co-financing organisations and government entities like the Department for Work and Pensions. So today's agenda, we will start with Anne, who will be talking about sourcing, engaging and retaining talent in a competitive market. We'll follow that with a Q&A from the presentation that Anne's delivered. We will then be talking about school engagement, mentoring and retention of staff, and that will be hosted by Jim. We'll also follow that with another Q&A and an opportunity to query Jim on some of the details he's provided in his presentation. We'll be following that with a presentation from myself on the NASC's talent portal, which is the foundation stone of the NASC's initiative to try and do whatever we can to support the acquisition of new blood into the sector. We'll also have a Q&A following that and a summary and close. So if there are any questions at all that are burning away as we speak, then please jot them down and make sure that you submit them. We are not precious about the nature of any of the questions, so please do not feel that there's anything that's going to be so obtuse that it will be ridiculous to ask it. The only way in which we're going to be able to evolve and to improve the way in which we're engaging is by responding to all the queries that are out there, making sure that we're as responsive as possible to every type of employer, irrespective of size. So, I now have the pleasure of introducing Anne Pavey, the Senior National Account Manager for the Department for Work and Pensions, who will be taking us through the sourcing, engaging and retaining of talent in a competitive market. Over to you, Anne.
Thanks, Henry, and thanks for letting me come along to today's webinar to talk to you about what we can do to help and support. So, working with DWP, Department for Work and Pensions is our overall title, but the high street brand that you might be more familiar with is Job Centre Plus. But either way, we're the same organisation and do the same thing. It's just how we actually address ourselves as we go forward. So why work with DWP? DWP is quite a big organisation and it has lots of different talent pools that we can tap into with you to help and support your future recruitment needs. We have local teams that work tirelessly out with employers in the area to help and support in navigating that whole attraction piece for you and the members within NASC. And they have all the local intelligence, which is the really important bit. They know their demographic, they know their customer bases, they know actually which sectors are more prevalent in that area and what competition you'll have in the area. And those place-based plans that they do in each and every of the 680 plus offices we have in DWP is key critical to understanding the labour market in your area. And they can provide that for you. Now, we know that people are time poor. Henry just alluded to it. It's about trying to do things in a more efficient way. So working smarter, not harder. And I think that's one of the key things around working with DWP. We won't solve every single one of your recruitment needs, but if we can actually help support a little bit of that activity, we are just one route to finding new talent pools. We want our people that we work with to be given a chance, Now, for me, construction is one of the best sectors out there. You attract from the widest pool. The career progression is amazing within the sector. The training opportunities and just actually the ethos of working in the sector knocks socks off quite a few other sectors that are out there. So it really is a great sector to move into, but we need to help and support you navigate that very, very clunky world that's out there. Surprisingly, in some recent workshops we've done, we found that a lot of people are actually digitally excluded. So we all assume that young people with today's technologies and everything else are going to be absolutely amazing at IT. And we're finding actually that there is a big pocket of people that haven't got those skills, so can't actually do that recruitment in the more traditional ways. So what we try to do is be very innovative around how we can help and support the employers that want to recruit. We want you to give people a chance to showcase themselves in your business, having a look at the skills that they're bringing, and when you can get that little diamond that's in the rough, how you can buff it up and make sure that that person fits into your organisation in the best possible way that they can. And changing your processes and doing something a little bit more lean or streamlined will again help with that time poor type scenario that we all face, because the quicker we can do something and the less time bound it is, then the easier it is. So what I've done here is just put together some of the kind of things we can help with. Now, it's a pick and mix. You don't have to do all of them. You could do one or two of them. And actually, it's around how we connect you into the Job Centre network to make sure that we can help and support. I've talked briefly, no cost recruitment. We've got candidate pools that are ready to start work. We just need an employer to give them a chance and do something different. So we could hook you up with your local job centre. They could actually, on your specification, pre-sift 3-5 people and just send them down to interview. So you've got no sifting to do, no searching for customers, having to work out what's going on. We can give you a cohort pool. You can just interview them and then take them on. So there's lots of different things that you can do. And yes, we run careers fairs or job fairs all of the time in DWP, but depending on your organisation, you may have people that can go and interview people and sort of rock up and do that. But again, if you haven't, let's find a solution that will work for you. Work trials, one of the best products we've got, and that is where you've interviewed someone who's unemployed and in receipt of benefit, and they're looking to start work with you, but you're just not quite sure they're going to fit in. For up to 30 days, you can have that person at no cost. You don't onboard them, you don't pay them. They retain their benefit, we pay their travel, and we pay their childcare costs. And what you can do then is use that time to make sure they fit into your organisation and that they're happy to fit into your organisation as well. So it's that two-way sort of look at the world and look at the job at no risk to either party. Schools. I know that Jim will talk more about a route into schools that he uses quite a lot, but we've got in England only, we've got school supervisors who actually work with the top 1,000 most deprived schools in the country, and they can be an opening of door into a school environment for you if you so want to. We're not careers advisors, we never profess to be, but what we do is we talk about the world of work. So we're talking about all those soft skills they're going to need to transition from school to work, but also we do mock interviews and we get them ready, CV surgeries, that kind of thing. If that's something you're interested in, we can open those doors into the schools we work in. Work experience, for me, the best, the ultimate product, because this really, really gives people the opportunity to see a sector at its best. So within work experience, it's from 2 weeks to 8 weeks. We pay all their benefit, we pay all their travel, and we support that childcare claim if there is one as well. All you do is you look after that person, do your normal inductions to make sure that they are safe, but then just give them a mentor for the period of time, and they can actually work alongside your people and you can see how they fit. And it's a way of testing out the talent that you've got, but in a slightly different way. It also makes sure that they've actually got something on their CV that says, I've actually done something, I've been here for 6 weeks, and this is the, this is how I got on, and they've got something really tangible to take to an interview. It also cuts the wheat from the chaff, and that people that sort of flirt with the idea and think they would love to be scaffolders, and actually the reality isn't there, at least you haven't onboarded them and you haven't gone to all that expense because you've actually taken them into that. They can move from that to apprenticeship, they can move into a job, it's absolutely fine. With work experience, there does not need to be a job at the end of it. It is, as it says, it's an experience of that working environment. But what a great way to test out your future talent and seeing how it fits into your organisation. We can help and support by running short training courses. So we have in England, we have pre-employment training, and across England and Scotland, we have what we call a SWAP, a sector-based work academy programme, which is short, sharp intervention training, where they can go, they can do all their health and safety, they could do the COTS course, they could do all those little bits that you need, and they come with a little bit more knowledge there. In Wales, we have a completely different programme called WSUP, which is the Wales Skills and Employment Pathway. And so same kind of product, it's short, sharp intervention training with 3 elements: training, work experience, and a guaranteed job interview. Again, locally, they can tap you into that kind of training, or they can work with you and a training provider to actually deliver something if you've got slightly bigger numbers that you want to do. And of course, you've got to remember that universal credit is a very flexible benefit and therefore can actually provide financial support in those first months of working, depending on what the pay scale is. So each individual circumstance is different, but UC might actually be able to top them up for a little bit if their circumstances warrant it. And of course, we'll pay travel for it until their first paycheck, which usually is a month, but it can be extended in certain circumstances. And of course, we'll help and support with childcare in those early days as well. And the recent release of the childcare funding and how that works, and actually parents can go much earlier in their journey, that's all the kind of things that can be brought to bear in there. I think with diverse groups, and one of them is returning citizens. Now I know Henry has done a lot of work to look at this talent pool, and they are a fantastic talent pool, but sometimes it's quite hard to navigate how to get into a prison or into the ex-offender space. Let us help you do that. Within the prisons, we've got what we call prison work coaches, and they actually work with those prisoners in the 12 weeks before release. They make sure that their claim to universal credit is all sort of booked and ready to go. They make sure they've got the right to work paperwork. They'll help them with things like national insurance numbers, all those little tricky bits. They're part of the team that help to look after housing and that kind of thing as well. So let us, through our prison work coaches, actually invite you into a prison that is in your area that you want to do some work with. They'll take you in, they can give you a visit, you can actually meet some of the prisoners, and then you can actually, when they are ready, you've got that ready-made workforce to come out of prison to actually be part of your workforce going forward. And there's lots of other diverse groups as well. So, we can attract cohorts of women to come and work in the sector. You've got people with disabilities. Not all disabilities are seen and not all disabilities are severe. But we've got a great scheme called Access to Work that helps and supports the challenges that those people might have in coming into work. And it can be as simple as travel costs because they can't get in. Each person is different. Each award would be different, but we can tell you more about that at a local level or at a national level. You've got your returning citizens, but you've also got things like your armed forces leavers. So we can help and support and navigate you to those before they leave the services, but also, and more importantly, those ones that have sort of not quite translated their journey into the community. So they might have a few challenges there, but one of the best things that you can do as an employer is start working with that cohort, because once they've got a work experience opportunity or a job opportunity just over the horizon, it helps and speeds up any kind of illness they've got, and getting them, they move at a much faster pace into work. And of course, we'll help with your apprenticeships. All of this, as I said, is a pick and mix. It is not a, you must do everything on this list. And actually, this isn't all that we can offer and help and support. But it's about coming to us and talking to us so that I can connect you to the right people in DWP for your area, or the local job centre, or the local prison, wherever it may be. I can make those introductions for you, and then you can go and work with those local teams to bring your business in, but do it in whichever way suits you. So again, I said, not a one size fits all, but working in partnership with us, we help our customers, wherever they come from, into a career that can last them a lifetime. As a very open sector, willing to take people and sort of, look beyond the person, not so interested in qualifications per se, but it's about the attitude and the appetite of those individuals. So it's actually getting to see people in their rawest talent. By working together, we can actually support all those new talent pipelines into your sector. And when they're in you, help and support is still available through different schemes and different methods to keep them in sustained work as well. Now, that was a very much whistle stop. So I'll invite Henry to come back on and see if anyone's got any questions.
Thank you so much for that, and that's amazing. Apart from everything else, it now leaves me feeling like I don't have anything to do whatsoever, and I can just signpost everybody. So that's amazing news. But flippancy aside, it is really useful to know that there is such a vast array of options available to employers, and I think it's particularly important for smaller employers to recognise that there is that actual support that can hopefully help them to maintain some form of engagement strategy, or to develop an engagement strategy. A question that has arisen in respect of work trials. How the transition to full paid work in respect of benefits? At the end of the work trial, there's obviously going to be a point when the universal credit ceases. But what is that sort of transition process? I know you mentioned things in respect of travel to work and that kind of support. What can our employers expect, or what do they have to understand?
Yeah, so the work trial, as I said, it's a try before you buy program, and that's exactly what it is. After about a week, most employers know if this individual is going to fit into their organisation, and that individual knows if they're going to fit the other way as well. But you can do that up for 30 days. Now, you don't onboard them, as I said, you don't pay them anything for that period. At any point in that work trial, you can then convert them onto your payroll. So you don't have to wait for 30 days. If after a week you're happy, you can just onboard them, and that's absolutely fine. So what will happen during that period is their benefit stays in place while you do the work trial. After that, it's then a very, very different scenario depending on the circumstances of the individual and the rate of pay that they're being paid at and the way in which that works. So what we always suggest is that they come back into the job centre to talk to their work coach and do what we call an in-work benefit calculation. And at that point, what they can do is they can see how their earnings are going to impact on their universal credit. Now, for some people, that might just actually wipe out their universal credit completely from their first paycheck. And remember, it's the first paycheck that will be that determination and where that falls in the cycle of the individual. So it's quite complex to do it, but that's where the work coach can actually come in and say, well, this is when you're going to get paid, and this is how it will affect your universal credit. So they do that in-work benefit calculation. At the same time that they're doing that, they will look at travel costs, and they can then help and support potential childcare. They can also at that point look at what else that individual needs. So that individual might need a particular tool or some PPE that they have to get in order to get the job. And that's where potentially, and I say potentially because all the rules are very, very complex for that, but they might be able to get some additional support financially there. So the universal credit could stay in place throughout. It could cease after the first payment that they get. But what will happen throughout is that their universal credit claim, even if they're not getting any money, their claim will stay in place for up to 6 months. And then if they don't actually need to draw down the universal credit for 6 months, their claim will just sort of gently close and just disappear into the ether. But if for some reason their wages dropped in the period, then universal credit is there in that period where it just literally goes, oh, this is how much they've earned. This is how we look at universal credit. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, they're due some universal credit, and it will just pay them because it's an automated system based on real-time information and how that works. If your person is self-employed, again, that's a little bit trickier because they have to self-declare. So they'll self-declare to their work coach exactly what they earn, and that will then determine where their UC stops. But it's all based on the individual circumstances, based on their rate of pay and when they're paid. So that in-work benefit calculation from their work coach is absolutely key critical to make that a nice, seamless and straightforward route into work. Does that help?
Thanks. No, it does help. I think ultimately this kind of information is invaluable, but a number of our attendees, and including myself, actually, you have to have that kind of frequency of contact, so it becomes second nature for you for you to understand, as it were. So expect me to be asking these questions on a consistent basis on behalf of members. And also, I think it'd be quite useful to know who you would suggest are the best points of contact at a local level if an employer wants to engage with a local job centre, because there's a variety of roles, and I know that the work coaches are under intense pressure. They've got a significant workload. Are there any dedicated personnel that are specifically tasked with working with employers and sort of onboarding them into the job centre plus culture, so to speak?
Absolutely, yeah. So within each of the district teams, and there's 38 of those, we will have what we call employer and partnership staff, and they will look after that whole employer journey, and they will look at the district. So if you're located in quite a few areas, that district contact is really quite good, and that's the one we always give you as almost a backup. But we'll also give you the what we call an employment advisor who sits in the job centre. So your nearest job centre, EA as we call them, because we like an abbreviation. But so we'll give you both a district and a job centre contact. So you'd have two people in the area that can help and support, and they look after employers. The work coaches, as you're right, they are the front facing, they see the customers as they come in, and therefore they're not quite the right people. However, they are your influencers. So actually getting the information to the EA will then work with those work coaches to talk about your company, to talk about your opportunity, to talk about your jobs. And if you have got a spare half an hour, and it's only half an hour, you can pop into one of their regular team meetings where the whole office get together and just go and introduce yourself and talk about your jobs. If they see you in that visibility, that's great. But if you can't come into the job centre, that is where the employment advisor or the EA is absolutely pivotal, because they will be the ones that upskill the work coaches, and very often they'll get the customers referred back to them so they can have that more in-depth chat. So yeah, there is people specialising in working with employers throughout the business. So me nationally, then we have group leads, we have district leads, and then we have people in every single job centre as well, just looking after our employers and partners.
No, thank you so much for that. And I think it's particularly important to recognise that range of support. Some of our employers work across much larger geographical areas. And of course, those of us in the cities can be somewhat inured to that and quite ignorant of the challenge. So knowing that there is that range of support geographically and logistically is really, really useful. Final question for you, Anne, because I realise that I'm taking up a lot of time here. It's a sort of perception versus reality question, really. There is a almost popular, I don't know if it's a misconception, but certainly a popular perception that the majority of candidates available for work in Job Centre Plus are the hardest of the hard to help, the extremely long-term unemployed who come with a raft of associated difficulties, and therefore there isn't a significant amount of value in investing too much attention in working in partnership with Job Centre Plus or DWP to access talent. Can you speak to that in any way? I know that regionally there might be variations or variances, but could you sort of speak to that, give us some indication as to whether our employers should feel more confident about the nature of the talent that exists within Job Centre Plus?
Yeah, as I said to Henry, we have lots of talent pools that we. So it's finding the best talent pool for each employer based on the demographic. Now, some offices will have a very small and tight pool of people because of the area that they're in. Other offices will have bigger cohorts. Now, part of our remit is making sure that our employers are our customers as well. So why would we want to give you people that weren't ready, that weren't work ready or wanting to work in your sector? Because all that's going to do is stop you using us in the future as repeat business, and that's what we want to do. You're our customers just as much as anybody that's unemployed or in the prison or in the schools. So it's making sure that we know what your requirements are. Having employers work with us to accept that people might not be bright and shiny little buttons, but they might be a bit rough around the edges and just need those smoothing off. But what we will hopefully bring to you is people that want to work in construction and they want to work in scaffolding. Now, up and down the country, we run sector-based work academies every single week, bringing people through a talent pool where they do construction, they do the health and safety training, and they come out with a green labourer card. One of the quickest fixes for any employer will be to come in, connect into us, find out when the next course is running, go in and do some guaranteed interviews at the back end of that course and swipe the talent there and then. So there's lots of different ways in which we get people ready for work. So it could be confidence and motivation building, which is part of it. There could be CV writing, it could be interview prep, it could be that basic skills training. There might be different courses they need to do. But we get people as ready as they are, and it's around attitude as well as aptitude. So it's making sure that they're ready to work and doing that. People that are long-term unemployed, so over 2 years, we actually, we've got a contracted piece of provision called Restart that we actually send them where they have intensive help and support. So through the Job Centre network, you're not likely to see those, although you might be approached by some of those providers doing that service in a different way. But again, we're moving people on a journey. So some of our customers in the Job Centre are not work ready at all. They're too ill to work, and that's acceptable, but we still see them routinely and help them on that journey. You'll have a pool of people that are moving very much towards, and they're in that little space where they're doing extra activity to really, really bring them to the fore. And then you'll have your job ready candidates. As I said, they're not going to be shiny, but if you give those people a chance, you will change their lives forever. And that's what we want you to do. So part of what we do is making sure that we find the right people for you at the right time with the right skills and the right specification. And that's why it's really important you talk to our local people, because you can tell them what you're looking for and they can match to that specification. So that kind of behaviour shouldn't happen. But again, Henry and I are here to help and support and navigate anything that gets a little bit too clunky, because we can step in and support in those local relationships if needed. Does that help?
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And don't run away, because there's probably going to be questions for you later as well. But without further ado, I will now introduce you to Jim Scott. He is going to be taking us through a presentation on school engagement, mentoring, and the retention of staff. So over to you, Jim. And apologies for keeping you waiting, sir.
No problem at all. Hi, everyone. So I've been with Alltask now for just over 2.5 years, and I'm the first person in this role of sort of head of training, recruitment and development. So it's a role specifically tasked with finding the next generation of scaffolders and developing them through their training journey. Rationale for the role, Alltask probably recognised, say, a couple of years before they created the role, that they potentially have an issue in the future. The normal route for people to come to us was by word of mouth, and that sort of throughput of people was starting to dwindle, and the company recognised that if they didn't do something about it, in 5 years, 10 years time, there's going to be a real impact on the business. So that's how the role was first come to fruition, and I was just fortunate in the space at the right time, interviewed for it. I'm not a scaffolder by trade. I'm ex-military, 24 years in the military, 10 years in the commercial sector. So I bring that 35 years of people management skill to the role. When I took the role on, the people internally and externally, when they heard that I was responsible for finding next generation scaffolders, was often met with good luck with that. You're not going to be able to find people today. The youth of today aren't interested in working hard. And to a certain extent, there's some truth in that. And there are a number of barriers to recruiting people into the industry. Society, no doubt, has changed over the last 20 years. You know, people are not as robust as what they were 20 years ago, and that's for a number of different things. You know, school sports, team sports at school, the evolution of technology, having the ability to have everything in your hand, you know, can make people lazy. People are more focused on trying to get some side hustle on Instagram, etc. So therefore, they might not necessarily want to come into a construction-focused trade. But I think probably the biggest barrier to people coming to work for scaffolding or in the construction industry is a lack of understanding of the industry. People don't understand what scaffolding actually is, how to get into it, what the career opportunities are, or what the insane money is you can earn from doing it. And therefore, the biggest thing to do is to tell the compelling story around scaffolding to as many people as you can in order to inspire them to come into it. And that's certainly what I found. As a result of coming on board and making a plan, so a recruitment and development plan, you know, I've engaged in lots of different pools of talent. So whether that be ex-military, returning citizens under this initiative from NASC, whether it be with DWP and Job Centre Plus, or at schools and colleges. I engage at all of those different pools in order to try and find people and create a pipeline. So what I'm going to sort of focus on really in my sort of little section really is the success I've had in schools and colleges. Because as much as I engage in all those other sectors, schools and colleges is probably where I've had most success and where I've now got people coming to us, you know, via email or phoning me direct to say they want to learn more about our training program. Okay, first point there is about engagement. Historically, schools and colleges were not receptive to employers, you know, going and speaking in schools or even doing careers fairs 5 years ago. This is something that's changed. September 22, the government introduced assessment into Ofsted, where schools and colleges are assessed against a series of benchmarks called Gatsby benchmarks, which effectively assesses them on how well they're engaging with the work sector. So now if a school isn't informing their students and giving them guidance about work opportunities in the work area, they're marked down of it and potentially fail Ofsted. So that's changed schools' view on the work and preparing their students. Historically, they would just be interested on getting their students through education and into university because they got funding for it. Whereas now, effectively, they can affect their Ofsted performance if they're not engaging far and wide. And that is a benefit to all of us. How do you get into schools and colleges? Okay, within each local council, there is an enterprise network. It might be called the Enterprise Hub or Enterprise Partnerships, wherever you are, but they are your link into schools and colleges. They provide a series of enterprise coordinators whose job is to engage employers with education, so that you can assist education in preparing students for work after education. When I first started the job, I was put in touch with an enterprise coordinator for Medway, and that person had the link into the 26 schools that we have here. Clearly, that's a lot of schools, and I don't have enough time to go and speak to all those schools. So after doing an assessment and speaking to the enterprise coordinator, I said, which schools do you think would be best suited for providing students that might be interested in coming to a trade? I then did my own sort of assessment on that. And their schools either that predominantly provide lads that have come into the company, or they have a construction or engineering curriculum. So we have a couple of academies that have that in Medway, and we have Medkent College, and we have the UTC, which is the University Technical College. So they all do construction and engineering, and therefore they've got students already that are understanding about the construction industry. So that's the schools I targeted. And then it's about building relationships with those schools. So go and have a meeting with the careers advisor in the school. You know, tell them about your organisation, tell them what you have to offer, and that you're looking for people to come out of education into the scaffolding world, and build that relationship. To further develop that relationship, offer to assist with their career progression activities. Like you heard Anne talk about, there's a whole raft of things that schools are now doing. So mock interviews, delivering assemblies to either the year group or to a whole school assembly, or going to their careers fairs. They're all career progression activities which schools are laying on to meet those Gatsby benchmarks I talked about. So I go to mock interviews in year 10 and year 11. I'm not going to recruit anyone from there. But the main thing of doing things like mock interviews or going and doing a talk in a school is I'm putting Alltask at the forefront of the careers advisor's head. The careers advisors in schools, they know their students. Okay, so when a student comes up and says they don't know what to do when they leave education, the careers advisor will know whether they're academic or whether they're practical focused. And by going in the system of their career progression activities, I'm hoping that she's going to be, or he's going to be thinking about Alltask when she's having that conversation with the student. Careers fairs are probably the biggest event that schools run. They normally run them at least once a year. And there'll be a number of employers that will go there. My view of careers fairs is that they are worthwhile in doing. They take, you know, a day of your time to go and do. But what you're doing there is you're sowing seeds for the future. I originally, the first time I went to, I was expecting to go and speak to sixth form predominantly to try and capture those people. But you don't generally get sixth form that go to careers fairs because it's not mandated in their programme. So they tend to swerve it. But you get years 7 to 11 and a smattering of sixth formers. But in years 7 to 11, years 10 and 11 are particularly influential. They are taking their mocks. They've just done options and they're starting to think about what they want to do. So they're a good cohort to speak to. But equally as important, speaking to years 7, 8 and 9, although very young, you're sowing a seed. So when I go and speak to year 7s, I know that next year when I go, they're going to be year 8s. The year after that, they're going to be year 9s. And over a period of time, what I'm trying to do is influence them so that they, A, understand that we exist, they understand what the trade has to offer. So potentially they can then, you know, when it comes to the right point in time, I've influenced them to maybe make a decision to come into scaffolding. The last point on there is about education to employment initiative. That's something I'm running internally. Schools are really keen to put their students on work experience. As you can imagine, posting work experience takes time, effort, you know, not just necessarily me. You know, there's a number of people in the organisation that would be impacted if we have work experience to make it worthwhile. So kind of what I'm trying to do is create a pathway whereby I'll give a talk to year 10 and 11, or 10 or 11, And those people that are interested in that talk, they make themselves known to their careers advisor. And then I engage with the careers advisor and invite those interested parties for a site visit. That doesn't take a lot of time. Of my time, I take those individuals around the yard, maybe take them to a job, and show them what Scaffolding has to offer. From the site visit, those people that are still interested, I'll then put them on a short list to consider for work experience. And then potentially in year 13, so when they're 17, because we won't start people until they're 18, so year 13, offer them to come and work experience, maybe 6 a year. They will then come and do a constructive week of working on the yard, seeing the different areas of the business, going out to a job. And hopefully that's us sealing the deal so that when they leave education, they come and join us. So that's just an initiative that we've done. So that really is a snapshot of what I've done with schools and colleges to target the right schools, build relationships, and then conduct the activities and the rationale behind it. Next slide, please. So once people come into us, my view is getting them to the door, I think, is fairly straightforward. The real challenge is retaining people in the organisation, especially within the scaffolding organisation. And I think the key to that is development. And I think development equals retention. If you invest time in someone and you show them a career path and you treat them in the right way, then they will stay. And that starts for us, with me, from day one. So I do a company induction. Bishop, I'm sure all of you will do the same. You know, you'll have your own health and safety company induction when someone starts. But I follow that with a trainee induction. So trainee induction, next bullet point, please. The trainee induction is the rest of the day I spend talking to the individual about what they are going to experience in the trainee program. And that starts with me talking about the adult learning pathway. Next bullet point. So I lay down exactly what's going to happen to them in the trainee journey on day one. So what they're going to experience on the yard, what they're going to do as a COTS labourer, what sectors they're going to go into throughout their journey as a part one, as a part two before they fully qualify. I give them broad timescales of how long they're going to spend in each of those sectors. And I tell them how much they're going to get paid in each of those sectors. So that right off the bat, they know that they're going to go on a 3-year journey, which they need to meet certain criteria to get to the next level. And when they do, they're going to get paid an X amount of money when they get to that next point. So it's completely clear. And what I'm trying to do is get them to buy into the company from day one. I'll also talk about the apprenticeship. So I can offer the apprenticeship here. My view is I don't offer it to everyone. I'll only put the very best people on it. The reason for that for us is because it's quick. Yeah, and it's probably a bit too quick for Alltask. So people I put on there, they need to be good. They need to turn up every day. They need to be keen, and they need to prove to me they want to be a scaffolder. Okay, I've got 50 trainees currently with us. I've only got 8 apprentices, so it shows the difference. But I'll talk about that so that maybe that inspires them to go on that. And I'll tell them that over the 3-year period, they'll earn more money on the scaffolding apprenticeship than what they've all done now adult learning pathway. I'll also talk about, next point please, future career opportunities. So they, again, on day one, we'll talk about their scaffolding trainee journey, but then I'm going to say what happens once they're fully qualified. And what happens beyond that. You know, so yes, as a fully qualified scaffolder, I'd expect them to at least 5 years as a fully qualified scaffolder before we consider them to be a black hat. But what happens after that? They can become a black hat, and then what's their career journey looking like after that? You know, and specifically the route into contract management, and then anything else that we can offer them. So again, I'm trying to get them to think, okay, this sounds like a great opportunity for me to keep right from day one. And the last bullet point on this section, I spend then probably about an hour talking about administration in terms of what's going to happen when they mess up, or you know, what happens in the discipline process, when they get paid, how they get notified of what job they're on. I spend a good hour going through all of that so they know exactly what is going to be expected of them. My point here is I'm right from day one, is I'm giving them everything they need to know to hopefully set the foundations for them to stay with the company. Next bullet point. Once they leave the yard specifically, although they get coached and mentored whilst they're on the yard, when they leave the yard, it's important that they're placed with a black hat for a period of time. This doesn't always happen. We've got many jobs and people do swap around the jobs, but I aim to put a trainee with the same black hat for at least 3 months so they can build a rapport and effectively they can be coached and mentored at whatever level they are at that point in time. Whilst they go through that coach and mentoring process, they will be assessed and reviewed. Next slide, please. So we have a trainee assessment and review process. Basically, I will send out those assessments go out every 6 weeks. The black hat will assess them over 5 different areas and write a paragraph about them. Once he presses submit, that then goes to the trainee. So he sees exactly what the black hat has scored him and he sees what he's written. And the main aim of that is obviously to inform them of what they need to improve on in order to get to the next level. We review every trainee every 4 months here. We sit down and we go through every trainee and we decide whether they are ready to go to the next stage, either part 1 or part 2. And if they're not, what they need to do, and if need be, I'll intervene and effectively make sure that they're aware of that. Next bullet point. And then throughout the whole trainee journey that is managed, I make sure that they get the right experience in each of the sectors that we operate in order to make them a well-rounded all-task scaffolder by the end of the trainee programme. And that programme will vary between 2 and 3 years, depending on whether they're in the apprenticeship or the development pathway. Okay, next slide. Okay, so just to really sort of summarise, and again, what I've gone through there, I guess some of you will already be doing. I'm very happy to speak to anyone else about what I'm doing and how I've done it. If needs be, no problem at all. Just make contact with us. And I'm not saying it's necessarily the right way. It's just, you know, it's where I've had success over the last couple of years. In order to plan for success, these are my key points really. I know Alltask is fortunate. I'm fortunate that I'm in this role. My job is to go and engage, to recruit, and then to develop trainees through their 3-year journey. And I know not all organisations can afford to do that. But what I would say is make someone responsible in your organisation for it. If that means that you have to make someone double-hatted, so they're maybe doing, I don't know, health and safety manager for 5 days a week, change that to 4 days a week, and then make 1 day a week his responsibility or her responsibility to go and do recruitment and development. If someone isn't made responsible for it, then it won't get done. It will you just meander. That's key in not doing that, is creating a recruitment development plan. Look at where you're going to go, who you're going to target, how much time you're going to portion to it, and that'll help you stay focused on sowing the seeds, and hopefully over time people will start coming knocking at the door. Key point is maximise engagement. My view, people have said to me in the past, oh, you should just use social media, get TikTok videos out there, that'll attract new people. There are some issues with that. You know, you need to make sure you know how to do it. You need to make good content. You need to make sure it's hitting the right audience. Using social media like LinkedIn, Instagram stuff, you know, there are not many 18 to 24-year-olds that will go onto LinkedIn to look for a job in scaffolding, you know, as an example. So my view is maximise engagement. You need to be doing as much as you can to as many different pools of talent that you can in order to get the compelling story out about scaffolding. Once you get the trainee in, communicate the plan. Let them know what's expected of them, because then that will hopefully get them to buy into the organisation and want to stay. Coach and mentoring is absolutely fundamental. It's key. We've not got it necessarily perfect here. It's that because scaffolding has a historic legacy of getting the job done as quick as possible, and therefore the byproduct of that is sometimes people are not managed in the best way. What I'm trying to do here is change the workforce so that they coach and mentor at every level. so that people, that are labourers are being coached and mentored by part ones, so that fully qualified scaffolders are coaching trainees, so that they do things in the best way. Assessing progress is key. Assess people across time and let them know how they're getting on. Don't be scared to praise people. We have training of the review period here, which after the review, the committee that sits around the review will decide which trainee out of the 50 trainees deserves some extra recognition. Okay, and they get a £50 Amazon voucher as a result of that. Okay, and that just helps, obviously rewards that individual, but also everyone else sees that and, hopefully inspires them to work harder. And the final point there is developing the wider workforce. Like I say, to retain people is about how you treat them. And I think it's important that you also develop the wider workforce to be able to nurture trainees, to keep them and make them valuable members of the business. So here I'm looking at a leadership development program to try and develop scaffolders and black hats so they better can coach and mentor trainees. I've raised it at NASC sort of level, so industry-wide to consider integrating some leadership training into Part 1, Part 2 advanced courses, because I think that will help. I don't think there's enough leadership training or people management training within the industry, and I think we will benefit from that. Okay, that's all I've got to say. So thanks very much for your time. I'm very happy to answer any questions, or for anyone to make contact with me outside of the webinar. Very happy to talk to anybody.
Thank you so much, Jim. I recognise as well that we're sort of slightly behind schedule, which of course nobody's fault, right? There was a question for you, which was about what you would say in respect of employers who with the onboarding process and how we manage that in respect of payment expectations. Is there anything that you can speak to in respect of that?
For trainees that come on board with us, so obviously I interview every trainee. If I like them, then I give them the opportunity to join the wait list and then to start. On that trainee induction, I lay out what we're going to pay them at each stage of their journey. So whilst they're on the yard, what they pay goes up to once they become a labourer. As soon as they've done their Part 1, they get a pay increase. And the reason for that is at the end of the day, they've been through an assessment process and been reviewed a number of times for us to decide they're ready for their Part 1. Therefore, once they've done the Part 1 course, I don't believe you should be withholding the next rate of pay. I think they've earned the right to get on the Part 1, and then therefore we raise their pay to our Part 1 level. Our next pay raise is once they've done their Part 2 and submitted their MVQ. So again, historically in the past, people's pay used to get raised as soon as they come off their Part 2 course. But as everyone knows, you've got to do an MVQ, and people used to then drag their heels not doing their MVQ, but they would still be on the higher pay rate, and that would be a reason for it. So I don't raise their pay to that next rate until their MVQ has been fully submitted. It doesn't have to be marked, but it is submitted. And again, they're told that on day 1. And for us to get top rate with us, they need to phone up and say they're ready to take responsibility for their own job. Once they do that, we then do a bit of due diligence with this contract supervisor to make sure they are. And if they are ready and the contract supervisor think they're good enough, then we put them onto top rate. But that is all explained on day 1 off the bat.
No, I appreciate that, because I know that there's this consistent tension about rates of pay and the pathway progressions, especially compared to market rates, minimum wage versus market rates. So that's really, really helpful, Jim. There's a few more questions that we're sort of squeezing at the end, but in the interest of moving this on and trying to ensure that people can get an opportunity to access the presentation I'm about to do, I'm going to move on to the talent portal discussion now. So if you could take me to the next slide, please, sir. We've got a variety of things that we're going to be discussing: the future of scaffolding careers, exploring exciting pathways. I won't bore you to tears by reading every single thing that's on here, but they all relate to different pages that are on the talent portal or the talent website. Next slide, please, Jamie. Excuse me. So we've been talking about the ongoing and consistent challenge that we've had in respect of getting people into our industry. The reality is that we need people, and we know that this isn't revelatory to anybody. There are a number of reasons for this, some of which has been alluded to. There's poor visibility within the sector. We don't have enough information out there that can be compelling and inspiring. And I know Jim made a really great point about that earlier. The long and short of it is that we do need to adopt a different approach and synthesize a range of different approaches. Because if we don't, we're going to be left behind as an industry. And there is also another reality that has to be factored in, which is that other sectors are taking different approaches because they recognize that we have to engage our audiences with different skill sets and different strategies. So it's in our best interest to make sure that we're not only matching that, but trying to exceed it. So to facilitate this, the NASC are going to be launching our new revolutionary talent portal on the 29th of April, so 29th of this month. The idea is that we'll be connecting inspiring individuals with opportunities with NASC employees, which of course are the best in the business. And the intention is that within very short order, we're going to make this the ultimate destination for both job seekers and employers within the scaffolding industry. And I should probably add on there educators as well, because something that was mentioned by Jim, which I think is crucially important, is that the biggest barrier seems to be a lack of information. Next slide, please, Jim. So this first page here is the home page. You can see that mock-up that we've got there is the new website. It is in the final phase of development, as it were. We should have this, I believe, ready for us to do some testing by the end of this week. It's the reason why I put by invite only is because this industry solution is specifically for NASC members. Yes, we recognize that the industry as a whole has challenges, and we want to attract as many people as possible into the industry. But we're also very acutely aware that for people to flourish and to thrive, the best place to do that is with an NASC employer. The member login here consists of a variety of different sections that you can see there, tabs. So there's a scaffolding careers page, which will give information about the various roles, as well as some inspirational material, case studies and the like. There'll be a careers events page, which actually takes members to a range of different careers opportunities through some directories that we'll be setting up. One will be for government types of initiatives. So that will range everything from local authority initiatives to Department for Work and Pensions job fairs. So the job fairs that Anne was talking about will be uploading onto our portal on a consistent basis so that members have an idea about where they can access these and go and engage with their local job centre pluses. And of course, we can help to facilitate the most appropriate points of contact. There's also a button on this page for what we're calling our talent page, which is where employers can actively promote the different opportunities they have, as well as allowing applicants to upload CVs and to register their interest. The idea behind this is that we're also going to be able to allow organizers who have events to publicize their events using a simple form, which will mean that we have a regular diet or a regular sort of menu of opportunities for NASC members to be proactive and to do the kind of work that Jim has been doing. It's also going to have some very powerful calls to action. I will hasten to add at this stage that we are really keen to get input from members as to what they think can be done to improve calls to action in particular. The type of things that you know and synthesize all of this so we're making the most compelling offer that we can. And there'll be links to key pages, including latest vacancies and job roles, all from the home page. Next slide, please. Exploring exciting pathways is really to talk about the careers information page. Now, as you can see there, we're saying it acts as a knowledge hub. It's going to connect to the scaffolding careers page, careers events, and talent again. The reason why we've got case studies and mentoring is because they also sit underneath these pages. The whole point of a careers information page is to iterate the message that we want to inform, we want to inspire, so that it facilitates and helps with our engagement. Next slide, please, Jamie. So with Empowering Connections, this is quite possibly the most proactive page on the talent portal, the events page. The reality is that even though there are going to be events where you cannot necessarily go with the anticipation of recruiting directly, there are other events where you can expect that. But we want to provide you with a diverse sort of range of options in order to facilitate that engagement. We split it into 4 particular channels, we're calling them at this stage. Education, which I mentioned earlier, but that covers everything from local authorities, unitary authorities. It would also include the types of initiatives that are run by government quangos, as well as local government departments, and of course, our friends over at the Department for Work and Pensions, primarily facilitated through Job Centre Plus. So underneath each of those tabs, there will be a directory of events that members can access. Education is doing exactly what it says on the tin. That will primarily focus on schools, school engagement, opportunities that schools are presenting for assemblies, for their careers fairs and the like. We'll also be very, very happy indeed to receive submissions from members who might be aware of an initiative within a particular school that other members within their locality can also be participative in. Because I think one of the things that is a true privilege for us as a trade body is the collaborative way in which members work when they are at events. That it never ceases to amaze me how members seem to go into these events and really engage people for the greater good of the sector, in the knowledge that by doing that, we will hopefully uplift and raise the skill level and the quality of candidates within the pool of talent that we're trying to sort of create. Military, again, doing exactly what it says on the tin. We have an ongoing relationship with British Forces Resettlement Services. We'll be highlighting their careers fairs. Again, if you are aware of any initiatives that are happening at a local level, it would be ludicrous and disingenuous for me to suggest that we'll be able to get every last initiative or careers fair event or opportunity that's occurring on a weekly basis. Do submit these in to me. Make sure that we're aware of the NASC so we can publicize these for wider consumption. And of course, you've heard about returning citizens, our phrase and terminology for ex-offenders. There are a variety of opportunities to go and have prison engagement, and that's all the way from from Cat B, which is of course a much higher security status of prison, to Cat D, where they're in open prisons, literally ready to work. There are lots of ways in which we can facilitate that for you, and that will be something where you'll be getting more and more information over the coming weeks and months as to how to best engage with this particular cohort of talent. We're also keen to emphasize this is not explicitly and solely restricted to candidates who are currently in prison. We are offering opportunities through the Returning Citizen Scheme to anybody who is struggling to gain access to the labour market because of a criminal conviction within certain limitations and categories of offence, which would absolutely exclude candidates for applying for roles with NASC companies. More than happy to talk to you about that offline, and there will be subsequent webinars and information sessions where we're expanding upon this as well. Excuse me. Next slide, please, James. Now, on the events page, you are in a position to order this wonderful thing that you can see here, which is our unique and innovative talent pack. The idea is that when you go to these careers events, and Jim will certainly attest to this, I'm sure Anne can as well, you can feel lost in a sea of employers. So standing out is to our collective benefit. What we're hoping, we're hoping that the talent pack is going to help you to do that. Each talent pack will contain a variety of call to action material, 3 different sorts of leaflets that you can utilize. We'll have 2 pull-up banners, which you can see in front of the case. All of that contained within that very handy, convenient and sturdy carry case. Well, it's a pulley case, actually. It's got wheels as well, so you don't have to worry about having to lug that all over the place. You'll see on top of the box as well that there are some photographs and what loosely look like some plastic sticks. They're called connects. And the idea behind those connects is that particularly if you're engaging with a younger audience or a more tactile audience who like to sort of to be more interactive and to sort of feel and touch some of the materials that they may be working with, or to have practical opportunities, then that is something that we believe is going to, and we've seen it proven, is going to really infuse and engage and capture that younger audience and give them an opportunity to understand what it's like to, work within a team, because all of this will be done in as real an environment as possible. We'll be putting these groups of young people into gangs and asking them to replicate the structure that they see in those pictures. There are also technical drawings as well to make it as close as is humanly possible to a real life type of scenario. And then the final thing that you can see there is the virtual reality headset. It will come preloaded with a couple of animations, which are designed to give participants a simulation of being at height, as well as some hazard awareness and giving them some ideas of what a basic rudimentary scaffolding structure is. It is absolutely a game changer. And what I would suggest as well, though, what I strongly advise is that if you are going to be using and ordering a talent pack, which is free for NASC members to order, and of course, we'll collect it, we'll clean all the equipment, so you don't need to worry about anything other than ordering the talent pack and then sort of packing everything away in order for it to be returned. But one of the things that I strongly advise that if you are going to be seeking to order a talent pack and you are intending to use the virtual reality headset, you absolutely have to have a minimum of 2 staff. It is nigh on impossible to manage the virtual reality headset as well as engage with your audience, which is the primary reason why you're there. These are all hooks designed to get people to the table and to help facilitate grease the sort of engine of conversation. The most important thing is what you are going to say to them, how you are going to compel them to sort of want to have that conversation, and then ultimately to sort of plant the seed that allows you to nurture it on an ongoing basis and build the relationships in the way in which Jim was speaking about earlier. Next slide, please, Jake. Mentioned the talent page earlier, just going to a little bit more of an explanation about it. There are 2 particular buttons or sub pages. One, which I highlighted, is to register as a candidate, and the other one, which is particularly important to yourselves as members, it displays current vacancies. This is going to be that key pivotal bridge connecting our job seekers with prospective employers within the NASC. We're also, what I didn't mention about the talent pack is that and all of the call to action material and leaflets that are contained within it, will have a QR code that allows us to capture information from interested candidates, which will all be subsumed into the website and will help to sort of bolster the numbers of interested applicants who will be able to apply for your job roles. The job roles will be removed within a week of the closing date, I believe, but that's something that I will confirm once we've had our conversations with our web developers at the end of the week. Next slide, Jeremy. The whole purpose of this is to help you meet your future employees. Now, there is no point us continually, trying our darndest to attend every single event that's out there, and spreading ourselves as thinly as we have. As the past couple of years have demonstrated, we can have an amazing impact with Miranda. What we haven't been able to do effectively is to collate all of this data and then act upon that data, as well as create a coordinated strategy that allows us to sort of build a consistent platform of success. The talent portal is an absolutely fundamental part of that. It's going to get better and better. By the end of the year, we're aiming for at least 900 registered candidates to have come through the portal. I believe that that's eminently achievable. We're going to be doing a hell of a lot of work in terms of the back office digital functionality, so to speak. Google AdWords, something which our marketing team are working on assiduously at the moment, to ensure that we're attracting the widest possible range of candidates from across the construction sector. We want to make sure that scaffolding is also recognized, not just within this limited sort of prism of scaffolding, but that we're starting to engage with those different sectors, such as industrial, such as petrochemical. Scaffolding is a fundamental and integral part of all of these industries. So we have an immense amount of opportunity that can be offered, as well as creating that sort of range of different diverse options that this new age workforce, for want of a better phrase, are particularly interested in. If we do not seek to do things with innovation, with energy, with some creativity, and consistently learn the lessons from what has been working particularly successfully against those things which we perhaps need to revise, then frankly, we're not going to start making any inroads into addressing this really, really fundamentally important issue. So I'd like to end this, and I know this has been a very, very quick whistle-stop tour. As I said, we have got more webinars coming up. There'll be drop-in surgeries, of course, throughout the course of the year. And I'm sure that all of you are very aware that all you need to do is to contact me, and we can sort of facilitate some direct conversations and look at ways in which we can perhaps provide some meaningful training or some upskilling in respect of that engagement strategy that you want to employ, as well as helping you to identify staff within your workforce who might be best placed to facilitate this. But I was saying that the final thing that I really want to emphasize is that despite everything that we're doing here, and as exciting as I genuinely believe all of this is, the NASC, the DWP, we are not the solutions to the recruitment challenges. You, as employers, are the solution to the recruitment challenges. And I know that there are significant challenges we face as an industry. There are, training challenges that we face. Particularly, we're looking at developing pathways for our younger audiences. But it doesn't change the fact that we need to get people through the door. And just as almost more importantly, as Jim highlighted earlier, we need to retain these staff. And it's not rocket science to recognize all of the evidence supports this, both anecdotally as well as in data, that if you treat your staff better, they are far more likely to stay with you. And we want to be able to facilitate that and provide as many solutions as possible in order for you to be that employment solution. So I will now just remind you once again that the talent portal will be launched in all of its glory on the 29th of this month. For any further contact, of course, you've got my email address up there. And please do, as of the 29th of April, visit the talent portal website, which is on the, like a phoenix rising from the flames, on the old careers site. So it's still the same address, scaffoldingcareers.nasc.org.uk. We're really excited about this. We think we're going to be making some far more significant and consistent inroads into addressing this issue than we have previously. That's only going to be possible with your participation, your collaboration, and frankly, your advice and guidance as well, because we don't ever want to be so arrogant as to assume that we're just getting it right. We only know we're getting it right if it's helping you to meet your objectives. And that's for all of our employers. We recognize not every single organization is blessed to have a Jim Scott within their staffing pool of talent. But we are absolutely convinced that through the kind of nature of collaboration that we can foster, Jim has already alluded to that as well, more than happy to give people advice and guidance, working collaboratively at job fairs. We are going to be able to provide support to even, our micro businesses. So, moving swiftly on now, there was a question about enterprise networks for Jim. So if I could have Jim and Anne reveal themselves again.
Shoot, Henry.
Now, it may seem like a very obvious question, but are there specific staff, similar to the question I asked Anne, are there specific staff within enterprise networks who should be engaged? Or is it just a case of contacting local authority and getting through to your enterprise network team or department?
That's, from my perspective, that's how I did it, in terms of, I was lucky enough for an enterprise, someone who's part of the enterprise network, effectively contacted, or we became in contact with each other. She educated me around what the enterprise network had to offer, and that there was this network across the country of enterprise coordinators that effectively assist the work sectors engage with education. So now that I'm on their distribution list, our local enterprise coordinator, she will make me aware of the activity, the career progression activities that are going on in the local schools, whether they're mock interviews, whether there's a requirement for talks, whether it's the careers fairs. They get emailed to me so that I can then decide what I can and can't attend. And then I normally go back to her and effectively say, I'm happy to attend this. If I haven't already got the school's point of contact details, if I've got the school's point of contact details already, as a result of getting the email and being notified that there's a careers fair happening, I would then go direct to my point of contact at the school, say I'd like to attend, and I'll just copy the enterprise coordinator in. As far as I understand it, these are people employed within local council across the country, and like I say, they have this network of individuals that are tasked with assisting getting employers engaged with education, and vice versa.
Okay, I think one thing that's a job of work for me then is to look at a meaningful way to try and collate, if not a list of advisors, because these people change quite consistently, is at the very least points of contact that might help members with that engagement. Very mindful of time, so I'm going to end with one question for Anne, and that is, how do employers and apprenticeship providers best get in touch with JCP to join or to present employment opportunities at a work coach meeting?
Right, so there's quite a few ways you can connect into DWP. If you actually Google employer services within DWP, it will take you through to a telephone service. They will take your details down and then they will pass it to the local coordinator. Alternatively, for your members, Henry, I'm more than happy for you to give them my email, and then I will make that connection down to the right people depending on what they want. So if it's prisons, I will take them into the prison network. If it is schools, I'll take them into schools. And if it's into the job centre, I will give them those contacts. So just pass on my email and we can start with that and see how it goes.
Understand why I think that in a second. The question was, how will you, as in the NASC, contribute to the dynamic and essential world of scaffolding, where each day brings new challenges and opportunities for the youth of today and to transform them into the talent of tomorrow? Firstly, that's an absolutely spectacular question. And it's a big question. What I would say to that is that I would draw your attention to the more or less the final statement I made in the presentation, that frankly, it's not the NASC who are going to be doing it. It's the employers. You're the ones who are going to be doing this. You're the ones who are going to be doing the active training. I think it's also a bit of a misconception and myth to think that training happens solely once somebody is sent to the training provider. The real training happens when they're with you on the job. That's how the best scaffolders are created. That's how the best people from any vocation are created, when they're cutting their teeth at the coalface, doing the job itself. That's how the expertise is created. It's not to say that the training is not important when they go to their training providers. Of course it is, but it's nowhere near as crucial as the consistent mentoring, support, guidance, advice that they're getting from the black hats, from all of the professionals within your companies, within your organizations. And just to remind everybody that this recording will be available, this webinar will be available as it's being recorded. I just want to thank both of the panelists again, Anne and Jim. Really appreciate your input today. Thanks for your generosity as well for being available for future contact. Thank you to every single one of you that's attended today. This is, one of many webinars which will be going on a consistent basis. And please don't stand on ceremony. Make sure that any questions that have eluded you today or that you felt disinclined to ask, submit those to me. Offer any advice, input whatsoever that you think can help us to increase the range of tools and skill sets that we can utilize in order to make sure that we're demonstrating what a compelling industry, and even more importantly, what compelling employers we have in the NASC. So thank you once again, and a nice shout out to Jamie for your amazing back office, making me look digitally competent. Much appreciated, sir. And yes, we'll see you again very soon. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.